Hello, everyone. Hope you had a good week so far. I thought I'd do another one of these stock market updates just to let you know what's been going on in the stock markets around the world and specifically on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, South Africa. Before I get into it, I just want to give you a brief history of myself and how I got involved in the stock market, in case anyone's interested. So, yeah, when I was 16 years old, I was involved in quite a serious car accident. I was paid out some money from the road accident fund. And when I was 21, I had access to that money. Wasn't sure what to do with the money. A friend of mine suggested I invested in the stock market. In those days, they had a physical stock exchange in Johannesburg. I arranged a meeting there, went to see, I think the company was called Davis Borkham Hare. Went to see a guy there, and he, stockbroker, suggested that I invest in Bidvest shares. I remember paying, so I went ahead and did that, paying 13 Rand a share. And it's quite incredible just how that's grown over the years. Quite amazing. And Bitcorp was also unbundled out of Bidvest. So, you landed up with two companies. Unfortunately, I sold the shares 3 years later, so it didn't get the benefit of the Bitcorp unbundling. But it really set me on my road for being interested in the stock market, really. Fantastic experience. And I hope you've had those experiences as well, where, you've invested money in the stock market and it's done well for you over the years. I suppose everyone's had a different experience, but, time in the market really does seem to pay off. If you invested in good quality shares. I then, many years later, went on to study. I did a BCom Honours in Economics. After that, got involved in treasury outsourcing and then went into stockbroking in 2007. I worked for a company called Impala Reed, which has now been taken over by Momentum Securities. I was there for 6 years. I then went to ABSA, to their stockbroking division, worked as a portfolio manager, managing local and offshore share portfolios for high net worth individuals. I was there for 5 years and left there, and now at AfriFocus, where I've been. AfriFocus Securities, also a stockbroking company. I've been here for the last 3 years. Really enjoying it. It's going well. So that's me in a nutshell. So let's share some screens here to see what's been going on in the markets. So first of all, I wanted to show this screen, which is the US 2-year Treasury bonds. So this is where an enormous amount of money flows, and you can see the yield on the 2-year Treasury has been ticking up significantly since 2021. We had the big drop down there when they were lowering interest rates in the States during COVID, and then they've completely reversed that whole their whole stance there on the back of rising inflation to combat inflation, and we've seen the yield on the 2-year Treasury rise dramatically to where there's now 4.89 thereabouts. Looking at what's happened this year, we saw it peak in October, towards the end of October last year, and then start dropping down. And we saw a bit of a rally in the stock market then. And then since the end of January, it's sparked up dramatically. And this is really because there are renewed concerns that inflation in the States is not coming down as quickly as what the market had hoped. So on the back of that, how has the market reacted to that? The markets typically do not like rising interest rates. So if we look at the US 500, the American stock market, you see here, 2020, we had the big collapse due to COVID. They dropped interest rates dramatically to try to stimulate the economy, which is usually a good thing for the stock market. The stock market rallied significantly, as you can see here, from a low of about 2276 all the way to its peak in January, towards the end of December last year, which was about 4,800 January 2022. Since then, they've started raising interest rates, and you can see that's had a negative effect on the stock market as a whole, particularly the tech stocks like Apple, etc. And it's pulled down. And you can see we had more recently this rally in the beginning of this year in January. We had a nice rally there. And then it reached a peak. And as you can see, that when they started, when the treasury yield started picking up on the expectation that inflation is not dropping as quickly as the market would have liked, the stock markets pulled back in February. How has that translated into the South African market? If we look at the South Africa top 40, the largest 40, an index of the largest 40 companies in South Africa, well, it's led to dollar strength, the rise in treasury yields in the States, and that's actually been pretty good for the South African stock market. But there's also been China reopening, and China reopening has benefited stocks like Naspers and Richemont in particular, that have really benefited the overall stock market. But again, reaching a sort of a peak in January, and February hasn't been as good. So if we go now and have a look at what's been contributors to this performance on the South African stock market, JSE over the last month, MultiChoice doing very nicely, up 16%. Richemont up 13.5%, as mentioned. Aspen up 13%. They released a note, guidance the other day, which is expecting the second half to be a lot better than the previous 6 months. So the market's responded very well to Aspen over the last week or so. Anheuser-Busch up 7%, the asset manager 91, up almost 7%, Mediclinic up 4%, etc. And if we look at what have been the detractors to this performance, again, I'll just go back to the charts here, looking at the dollar. So the dollar, how the dollar has responded to the rise in treasury yields. We can see it reached a bit of a peak in September last year, after a dramatic rise from May 2021. The dollar got really, really strong. On the back of that, you'd expect the rand to weaken, despite what's going on locally. Then we saw the dollar hit a peak in October last year and start pulling back quite sharply, which is one of the reasons why the market had a nice rally over that time. But unfortunately, in February, that started picking up again, the dollar getting stronger again on expectations of higher, well, of inflation not coming down as fast as the Americans had hoped. So that has affected the dollar-rand exchange rate, the dollar getting stronger and the rand getting weaker. So the rand close to we saw in April 2020, going all the way to 1934. So the problems at Eskom and our government, the corruption, etc., is certainly not helping the case for the rand either. And the strength in the dollar also contributing to the weakness in the rand. So on the back of a stronger dollar, we've also seen the platinum price come down sharply, because there is a relationship between the dollar and the platinum price, as well as the gold price. So we've seen here, if you look at, when was that, January 2023, the platinum price had started ticking up, but since January, it's taken a sharp decline, the platinum price. And on the back of that, the platinum miners have taken a dramatic fall. Anglo-American Platinum down 25%, Sibanye Stillwater down 22%, Impala Platinum down 21%, Northern Platinum down almost 14%. The gold shares like Goldfields and Anglo Gold also not faring too well over this period either, because let's have a look at the gold price. Gold price also pulling back on the back of a stronger dollar. So yeah, so it's been Sasol also taking a bit of a beating, down 12%. Kumba Iron Ore down 10.5%, and even Anglo American down 9%. So broadly speaking, the whole commodity complex not faring so well on the back of a stronger dollar. Also, I guess concerns that eventually the US will go into a recession. We can see that by the difference in the US Treasury yields. The 10-year Treasury yields showing a higher than the shorter dated ones, usually indicative that they're expecting a recession. But that certainly has not happened yet. The US economy is still strong. There are no signs of it really weakening that we've seen. And that's added to the concerns that inflation is going to be around with us for a while. And therefore, the Fed unlikely to start lowering interest rates anytime soon. So, yeah, and just before I go, just some updates that we've seen over the last week. As mentioned, Aspen coming out with a change in guidance, which has lifted their price quite significantly over the last couple of days. The results themselves weren't so good, but the forward-looking statement was very positive. And that's why we've seen this dramatic rise in the last couple of days on Aspen. We saw results from the results in trading statements. It has been a very busy week. Murray and Roberts also coming out with an announcement, market not reacting that well to that statement. Woolworths came out with a statement. I'm just showing you the reaction of the market to these statements. We call them the stock exchange news service statements. They're either trading statements or results, but as you can clearly see, the market not responding well at all to the Woolworths announcement. What else do we have this week? Harmony Gold Mining Company also came out with a statement. Not too much of a reaction, but still looking pretty weak on the back of the weaker gold price and stronger dollar. Cashbuild came out with a statement as well, and coming off a bit their share price after that announcement. Like I say, it's been a very busy week with a lot of announcements. MTN came out as well, and yeah, sort of a muted reaction. It's been a bit sideways the last few weeks. MTN, the share price not really showing much direction either way, but it has been fairly positive since the end of last year. What else have we got? Investec Property Fund, they released results. And there we go, RPF, excuse me. So, yeah, also muted reaction towards those results. Sort of neither here nor there, but not exactly rising too much on that statement. Moving on, Impala, again, as mentioned, all the platinum shares not doing well at all. They released results today, actually, and the market responding pretty negatively to that statement. FirstRand as well. I'm just looking at my notes here. FirstRand, yeah, FirstRand having a nice run since December last year, and they released results as well, which the market has responded well to. So I guess that's a number of factors there. You know, typically high interest rates are good for banks, and you see, interestingly enough, that sort of narrative in international banks as well. So for those of you that have an offshore portfolio, have a look at some of the banks as well, starting to look a lot better. Then what else? Grindrod also released results, and the market responding quite nicely to Grindrod's results, starting to pick up since the in the last few days. And lastly, Sibanye Stillwater, the platinum miner, they've got other assets as well, not only platinum, but a precipitous drop, that's the word, and not responding well at all to the drop in the platinum price, as well as the recent statement that we saw. So that's it for this week. I think we've covered quite a bit there. If you have any questions or would like to talk about your portfolio, you're more than welcome to give me a call or drop me an email. That's warren.s@afrifocus.co.za. That's Warren S for sugar @afrifocus.co.za. And hope you have a fantastic week. We'll see you next time. Enjoy.